I'll pick up your mail on my way home.
Oh, thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate that. Now, there's one last thing I have to ask you to do, and I'm sorry to drop it on you in the last minute like this.
In that case, don't drop anything. Go get your plane.
No, listen. Last night, I had dinner with Sid and Marjorie Jameson.
Sid and Marjorie Jameson. Oh, yeah, they're on the board of directors, aren't they?
Yes, they are, and they... Well, in fact, the entire board of the production company here has a special interest on the scripts we're doing on the business writing program, including the one on reports and proposals.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Sure. They have a lot to say about what goes on around here, and if they're not impressed, it could have serious consequence on future productions.
Yes, that's true. And also, they're all successful business people. I think that their opinions on our business writing program could be very helpful. Anyway, by the time I'd finished dessert, I had promised them a proposal.
You mean we promised them a proposal?
A proposal?
Yes, to show them that our approach to business writing has real merit.
Gwen, we've got a script to put out and a deadline.
I know, Norm, but I truly believe that this is important.
How long?
Well, brief, I'd say.
I mean, you're going off to this television conference for how long? 2 days? When do you need the proposal?
Well, I promised it to them for the board meeting on Thursday afternoon.
Day after tomorrow?
So we're to stop our work on the script to write a proposal proving our approach is worthwhile?
It doesn't have to be elaborate, Norm, just something clear and concise. Here, I stayed up until the wee hours and wrote some notes. This is for you and Jenny.
A memo? Very businesslike, huh? Let's see, objective. Our goal is to convince the board of directors that our scripts on business writing, especially reports and proposals, are the basis for effective programs.
What's this about format?
Tape recorder. Oh, excuse me, Jenny. Well, the company has a format they like to use for proposals, and they've asked us to use it.
Well, is it required?
Jenny, believe me, I've learned from experience. The first rule about writing proposals and reports is to use the format if it's given to you.
They expect it.
What about research? Is there anything listed here we don't have?
Oh, I think it's all around here in one form or another. Oh, good heavens, look at the time. I'm going to miss my plane. I hope I've got everything. This is for Cassie when she gets in. Oh, good. That's for you, Cassie.
What is it?
Now I have to run. I will see you all on Thursday morning, bright and early. Goodbye.
Gwen, your coat!
Let's try taking a look at this tape Gwen and I put together last week for the script.
On the Document Design Center?
Yes.
How are we going to describe that in the proposal?
First, what's the Document Design Center?
Oh, it's a private organization in Washington, D.C. They've done a lot of research on writing, and they've developed courses on how to write clearly.
They also write government reports and regulations, and they redesign government documents so that they're in plain English and easy to read.
In this documentary, we're going to see some of the techniques they use to design and write a document.
The Document Design Center is part of an independent, nonprofit research company called the American Institutes for Research. Our goal is to help people write better. We actually do 4 different kinds of activities here at the Document Design Center. We do research on how people write and how we can improve particularly the teaching of writing. We give workshops and training and develop curriculum in writing. We actually write. We revise documents for people. And we disseminate material. We have a monthly newsletter that goes to over 4,000 people now, people in schools and in jobs who are interested in learning how to write better and what's going on in the field. We also sell publications about how to write better. People write on the job much more than they ever thought they would when they were in school. And as they move up in an organization, they have to write more and more so that mid-management level people and technical people spend probably 1/3 to 1/2 of their time writing or reviewing other people's writing, acting as the reader for people. And only as they move into very high-level management do they then become only the readers, and they go into a lot of oral communication. But it's all communicating information at that level. Really, it's no longer using other technical skills. So writing's terribly important on the job. And writing on the job has aspects that are not usually used in school writing. For example, you really have to communicate something for a real purpose in writing on the job. And the most important thing is to accomplish that purpose, so you have to really understand what that purpose is. Also, in writing on the job, you're very often not writing something by yourself. so that you have to learn to write either in a group or in a situation in which people are going to really not only review your work to give you a grade, because obviously they're not, except in terms of merit promotion perhaps, but because they're going to also contribute to it, and you're going to have to negotiate with another person what goes into the final document. And also because in real-world writing, your work does get reviewed and has to be passed through several stages and revised a lot. And those are skills that people have to learn that very often aren't included in school-related writing. And so they get on the job and they don't know how to do that. This is a 3-day workshop which covers our entire process model of document design. On the first day, they talk about audience and purpose and the constraints on writing documents. Today, they're working on sentence structure and word choice. What actually happens in the workshop, because it's a hands-on workshop where people are really practicing what we're teaching, we have 3 phases which go kind of in a cycle. First, the instructors present some material on a particular sentence structure, or what we call a guideline for writing better. And they use examples on the blackboard and examples with overhead transparencies in this presentation. This is, of course, to teach the material. Then we have the participants try the material. And in our manual, there are exercise sheets based on real examples that come from, in this case, government documents, of poorly written sentences. And we ask them to rewrite them. And they spend some time on that, working either alone or together as they please, because real-world writing is mainly collaborative, so they can talk to each other. It's not like school. And then the third phase is going over the exercises, which generally leads to discussion of when it's a good time to use the guideline, of the fact that there isn't one right answer. There are often many acceptable rewrites of the particular sentence, and which also often raises issues, because sometimes people say, but we've always written in the way that these poor sentences are written. Why should we do better? And so very often we have discussions of topics like that. The workshop will go on to a 3rd day in which we'll be talking about how you design documents and how you test them and review and revise them so that when you actually send a document out, you know it works. Of course, a 3-day workshop is only the beginning of learning to write better. And these people go back on the job and they have an opportunity to use these skills. They will take our manual home with them, which does include the material that was covered in the workshop, so they'll have it as a reference book to look back on, because you can't expect to learn everything in 3 days. And we do find that people are very happy about the workshop even months later. It's made a difference in their writing, particularly if they are supported by other people in the organization and their supervisors like the way that they write better. That makes a big difference.
I don't know if this will help us with the proposal or not, but one of the things that really impressed me about the way they design a document, the steps they go through really make sense.
Well, maybe we should take a closer look at them.
Oh, I've got some notes. I can go through them quickly. Let's see. Begin by determining some basic things. The scope and the purpose and the audience of the paper you're going to write.
Well, you do that with almost any business writing.
Well, that's true. Okay. Then determine the task, which includes gathering research materials. Then look at the constraints, the length of the paper, the deadline, other outside things affecting it. Draft the document, review the first draft, revise and edit it, then finally evaluate.
That means someone else, like your boss, reviewing what you've written.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know. Anything all spelled out like this never really works for me.
Look at it this way. She's describing the writing process. Take this project, the proposal we're working on.
That's right. We're going through those same steps right now.
The scope of the proposal.
You mean what we're going to cover? Business proposals and reports.
All right. Purpose?
To convince them that our approach to the script will be, effective, dynamic, brilliant. And I think Gwen wants to impress them a little bit.
All right. Audience?
The board of directors.
Okay. Now, all those things are given to us. What's next?
Determine tasks and constraints. Well, for our purposes, the major part of the task is going to be gathering the research material.
But we've already done that for our scripts.
Constraints.
Right. There's the format Gwen gave us to use. She said make it brief and...
The deadline, Thursday morning.
So, We've got the scope, the purpose, the audience, task, constraints. You're right, the big part of this task is going to be selecting the material we're going to be using.
I guess we're doing that right now.
Uh-huh. And then we'll start putting our words on paper and do our first draft.
Then we'll review it. We'll do that together, and then rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Ooh, there's one more step.
Evaluate.
Uh-huh, that's Gwen. That means we have to leave time for her to look it over when she gets back.
In case she wants to make any changes.
So, we have to have this ready by Wednesday evening.
How are we going to have this ready by Wednesday evening?
Who wants to have it ready by Wednesday evening? Who wants to have it ready at all?
Well, there comes a time in every writer's life when you've got to bite the bullet. Come on, let's get going. We'll make our deadline.
Tom Oren specializes in technical and business writing. Norm, you have the Tom Oren tape, don't you?
No, you have it.
I do. Well, if I can find it, I want you and Cassie to review it so I can get started trying to make some sense out of this stuff.
Sure, be right there. Okay, let me start this off with a question the way I want to do it in the script. Now, what is so unique about business writing, and why is clear communication so important? We'll pick it up about here.
Must understand the assignment. And that's another difference, is that normally when we write a letter to a friend or when we write essays and such, the situation is that nobody really told us to. Students have to write a 500-word essay because the teacher tells them to. But other kinds of writing is done more or less from a self-initiated point of view. When you're on the job, when you're working, the boss says, I need an analysis of these figures, and I need to know, should we go with this deal or not? There's an assignment. And the writer has to understand that assignment. In other words, if the boss said, should we buy this deal? Should we go with it? The writer can respond with a yes, no, and a few reasons. Whereas in another kind of a writing situation, say writing an essay or such, there's an entire paraphernalia that goes with it, with development and throwing in of a lot of miscellaneous details. And so when I said that the best kind of technical writing is the kind that directly communicates the information the reader needs, this is what I was talking about.
So, what kind of writing communicates best? Now, Dr. Lester Fagley from the University of Texas...
Norm, I hate to say this, but I've got a music class in half an hour.
Okay. We'll look at the rest of the tape, and then you can go to class. Will that give you enough time?
Sure.
Okay. Now, Dr. Fagley begins by telling us what business people look for in business writing. Huh?
Okay.
Well, they express their concerns perhaps in 3 words: clarity, conciseness, and correctness. I think above all, they were looking for writing that made the point. People on the job are very busy. They have a great deal of paper that crosses their desk. So they want to know what it is that the writer is trying to say, what point the writer has. So they expect to see that in concise form. They expect to see that correctly. I think not just in terms of grammatical and correctness, which they expect, and correct spelling, but they also, they have a notion of correctness that is accuracy about the content itself. For example, if the document's a technical report, say on the specifications for a new electric plant, if there's sloppiness in the grammar and in the spelling, they might wonder if the figures, say, for dimensions of pipe are going to be accurate as well.
Accurate, concise, and straight to the point. That's what business people expect.
Yeah, no jargon, right?
Well, that depends on how you define jargon. See, there is a place for terms and expressions. For example, technical terms that may have a certain meaning in a profession, like engineers talking to engineers.
Oh, no.
Jenny, what's the matter?
I just remembered my daughter has a dentist appointment at 4:30.
Well, stop screaming and cancel it.
I can't cancel it, Norm. If you don't cancel more than 24 hours in advance, they charge you anyway.
Oh, great. So you're going to class and you're going to the dentist.
I'm not going to the dentist. My daughter's going to the dentist. I'll take this stuff home and I'll work on it tonight. Bye.
Bye-bye. You want me to come back later on?
No.
What about all this stuff?
Don't worry about it. I mean, we're all beat. See you in the morning. So, what I want you to do is just lay out a couple of definitions and a brief overview of business reports, and then decide what to say about them in the proposal.
Well, will those interviews help me do that?
I don't know. I haven't seen them. But Gwen put them together, and according to her memo, they should.
Sorry, I know I'm late.
That you are.
Well, I had to stay up late last night, and I got some good work done. And I had to make my kid's birthday cake. Because from the look of this proposal and the way it's going, I am not getting home to do it tonight.
Well, we were just going to cover business report writing.
Oh, good. I'll dive into this stuff. I want to have it finished in time to show it to you.
Okay, Cassie, let's get to work. This one first.
Norm? How would you define report writing?
Ooh, that covers a lot. Let's see. For example, salespeople are almost always writing reports on their activities. Then there are progress reports.
Oh, I know, like when Gwen writes progress reports about us, telling the board of directors what we're doing around here.
Yeah, that's right. And then there are forecasts, reports on business meetings. There are reports on how to solve particular problems.
So everything has to be reported. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is it's a basic way to communicate in business and in other organizations. Anyway, according to this, that's one of the things that Dr. Corbett talks about.
Well, the report writing is probably the most common kind of writing that takes place in the so-called real world. There's hardly anybody in almost any occupation, whether it's a nurse or a fireman or a police officer or a salesman or a boss, that doesn't have to write some kind of report for his supervisors. So probably if we were to actually make a study, report writing is maybe the most common form of writing that most people who have to do any writing at all will have to do in the real world. And so for that reason, that if you're going to do any writing at all in the real world, there'll probably be some kind of report writing. It's very, very important that you learn how to do this. Very often, of course, one of the advantages of report writing is that you almost always know who's going to read it. So you have a sharp sense of who your audience is and what you're going to have to say to that audience to inform them or to persuade them. So that's one of the things about report writing, is that you usually know the audience, and it's usually a very narrowly circumscribed audience. It's a small group of people.
Well, there's one more interview. Dr. Natasha Josefowitz. She's a management consultant, a professor, and an author. She briefly describes the basic elements of a good business report. You with me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The first question you need to ask yourself is, what is the opener? And any report that you write needs to have a first sentence which tells you what the report is going to be about. In other words, it catches your attention. That is the first part. The second part is the why. Why is this report being written? In other words, you as a recipient of the report would never have to ask yourself, why are they writing this, or why are they writing this to me? The reason for it comes in. The third is, what action can be taken about this? Let me give you an example. Let's take, the fact that the employees are all taking irregular lunch hours. Your opener would be something about the fact that employees are taking irregular lunch hours. The evidence, then the why, it would look like, as a result of this, very often the offices don't have people in them, or the telephones are not being answered. This is your why. The third is the action, and that would be, please answer by saying, would you prefer to take your lunch break between 12 and 1 or 1 or 2? And then the closure is, let me hear from you by, and then you have a date. You see, if a report has these elements, then a report is not boring, because it needs to be there. It needs to be written. There is, people who get it find that there's a reason for it, and then what is boring about it, especially if there is an action that is needed at the end.
You know those 3 points? I think they ought to be in our proposal for sure. Why don't you make a note of that?
Okay. The first one is a good opening sentence.
Right. The opening sentence must work hard. Sometimes you may want it to act as kind of a title, like Gwen did in her memo.
Okay. Regarding a proposal for our script about writing business reports and proposals to be presented to the Board of Directors Thursday at 2 p.m.
So right away you know what the memo is and why it's important.
And second is to explain why the report is being written.
Right. And third?
What action can be taken?
Great.
Okay.
Now hold on to that. I want you to gather up the notes we've made so far and
Okay.
try to put them in order. I'll see what I can do with this batch. Let's see.
Basically, this is from Janice Reddish, director of the Document Design Center. 12 guidelines for good business writing.
You have some examples?
Yes, but I was hoping for some help from you there. I began with the idea that you should address the reader directly.
The you attitude.
Yes, and to illustrate it, I've written an opening sentence to a letter.
Great, let's hear it.
We are proud to announce the opening of our new Party Pizza shop on October 8th.
So where's the you attitude?
It's not there, Cassie. That's the wrong way to open a letter.
Okay, here's the same idea with a good opening sentence. As a valued Pizza Party customer, you and your family are invited to the opening of our new restaurant in your neighborhood.
You see how that turns the announcement around from the point of view of the store to the reader?
Make the opening important to the reader, you mean?
Right.
Okay, second guideline. Use action verbs rather than nouns made out of verbs.
Nouns made out of verbs?
Yeah, listen to this sentence. Issuance of a check will follow receipt of your expense report.
See, issuance is a noun made out of the verb to issue.
Okay.
Okay, see if this is clearer. When we receive your expense report, we will send you a check.
It's a lot clearer.
For one thing, the word send is simpler than issue. And more often than not, it's better to use the simpler word.
Okay, Norm, but let's get back to the original point. You want to avoid turning verbs into nouns.
Right.
And there's a way to help you do that.
How do you mean?
When you look through sentences for words that have certain endings,
Oh, like M-E-N-T and I-O-N.
an A-L, an I-N-G, an E-N-C-E, an A-N-C-E,
For example, completion instead of complete.
which we are nowhere near doing on this proposal. Time for continuance to the next guideline. Write short sentences.
First copy.
Oh, thank you, Norm. Okay, look for instances where nouns are all strung together and try to separate them. Norm, can you think of an example?
Oh, let's see. You must prepare a group script proposal for the monthly Production House Board of Directors meeting.
Oh, that's a good one.
So corrected.
Okay, your group must prepare a proposal for the script to be presented to the Board of Directors of the production at their monthly meeting tomorrow afternoon.
Good enough. That brings us to what? Guideline 378?
The last one.
Okay, when you can, rewrite multiple negatives as positives.
I, for one, will not reject nor disagree with that particular guideline.
What?
He just came up with an example for us.
Okay, not to reject nor disagree.
Not a very clear way to write.
Or talk either.
That's right, so fix it.
Well, I think it would be better to write it, I accept or agree with. What's the rest of it?
Accept or agree with the use of this guideline as a way to write clearly.
Right.
What next?
Oh, I can come up with lots of examples. We did not say that we would not have this proposal finished, nor did we say that we would not be unhappy about having to do it.
All right, we got the idea. Let's wrap this thing up, huh?
So we're through with it, huh?
Well,
The last thing.
as far as I can tell, we've gone over everything here and then some.
I think we've got the research pretty well organized.
Wonderful.
Yep, now all we have to do is gather this wealth of knowledge scattered about the place
And write the proposal.
in the format Gwen gave us, and hope that we have enough time for a decent rewrite.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see how much work you've put into this. I know how tired you must be. The truth is, I like it. It's a good proposal. Anyone could see this is going to be a first-class script.
Well, we followed the format exactly.
We shot for clarity, our first priority.
Absolutely the right approach. There's just one thing.
Oh, you mean we left something out?
Oh, no, not exactly. But along the way into work this morning, I remembered a tape, an interview with Dr. Daniel Dietrich, and I really would like you to see it. Would you mind?
No, I think I know what's coming up.
Apart from teaching composition, Dr. Dietrich consults with businesses to show them how their employees can write more clearly. Thank you.
I think that the education students get in colleges, in English classes, and composition courses are very applicable to the kinds of things they're going to be asked to do on the job. The writing of memos and of letters and of reports and of proposals will all use in doing all these, the student will use the same skills that they use in writing papers for a college classroom. The skills of organization, of reader sensitivity, these sorts of things are the kinds of skills which are taught in most college classrooms, and are also the kinds of skills which are most important for someone who is a manager or, for that matter, a secretary, any level of expertise on the job.
Thank you, Norm. That's it. You know, I think it's essential to tell students that the writing they do in college will pay off later on in their business life or whatever they do in life.
You want us to put that in the proposal, don't you?
Well, it would strengthen it, don't you agree? You know, provide a link between business and college writing.
Idea. What do you say we put a paragraph at the end? P.S.
Norm.
I know. As tired as I am, I'd like to disagree with you, but I happen to like what Dietrich had to say.
Well, I appreciate how tired you all are, but I don't think it would take too long or be too difficult to weave it into the first paragraph here.
And?
Well, of course, it needs to be reinforced at the close, but...
All right, let's clear off a space and get to work.
Oh, you're troopers.